For this project, we are going to talk about a company called TCI Torque Converters Incorporated. Founded in 1968, TCI is a company dedicated to the manufacturing of aftermarket torque converters. Their applications range from heavy-duty towing to racing. In this video, we will use a torque converter pulled from a Ford AOD transmission as a visual aid. Using this aid and our class knowledge, we can intelligently talk about the manufacturing processes used to make this torque converter and compare it to methods used to make one of TCI's converters.
A torque converter out of a car like this is located between the engine and the transmission and serves as a fluid coupling between the two to transmit power from the engine to the transmission. This is the reason you can come to a complete stop in your car and not stall the engine.
Alright, so we have a torque converter here out of a Ford AOD automatic transmission. It's been cut open, so we're going to describe just how it works, and we're going to compare the design and manufacturing cues from TCI's torque converters. So this torque converter goes in between the engine and the transmission. The front cover is bolted to the flywheel, and the whole outer case rotates at engine speed. In the back of the torque converter, we have the impeller fins that are welded to the case and also spin at engine speed. The transmission fluid inside the torque converter gets flung to the outside of the case through the centrifugal force of the engine speed and drives the turbine fins on the other side of the torque converter, and the turbine itself is splined to the input shaft of the transmission. This is the fluid coupling between the engine and the transmission. The fluid flows down around the outside of the impeller fins and into the turbine fins, spinning the whole turbine housing. The fluid then flows down the little channels into the inside of the turbine and into the stator, where the stator redirects the fluid back through the respective impeller fin channels, and thus restarting the whole process. Okay, so as far as the manufacturing goes, this Ford AOD front cover appears to be made out of stamped steel, whereas the TCI aftermarket converter would be most likely machined out of a billet piece of steel that gives it higher strength and higher heat resistance due to the temperatures and loads that it sees. The center stator of the AOD converter appears to be cast and then machined out of some form of steel alloy. The TCI stators are specifically machined out of cast 8620 steel, once again to withstand the pressure and the force that the fluid inflicts on the stator fins. The turbine and turbine housing on the Ford AOD converter are once again stamped out of steel, and the fins are simply bent and crimped into the center ring to hold them in place. On the TCI torque converter, these fins are TIG welded in place as well as furnace brazed in order to withstand a lot higher temperatures and pressures. The same goes for the impeller housing and impeller fins. The impeller fins are also TIG welded in place and furnace brazed for increased temperature, and the outer hub case is also machined out of billet steel to withstand the higher temperatures and pressures of the fluid.